Good afternoon. Today we will be discussing how to apply for Section 8 or based on income properties. In this summary, we will describe the process that you need to go through and how the rent is calculated. So, upon trying to find based on income properties, the first thing you should do is to maybe go on Google or go to your local housing authority or MDHA, which is Metro Housing Development, and to compile a list of all the properties that's in your area that are based on income. Next, you should start calling those properties that are based on income to find out what day they are accepting applications. Once you have figured out what day they are accepting applications, make sure you have the correct time so you will be there in a timely manner. Once you have contacted the property and you have arrived at the property to receive your application, you need to bring with you a photo ID, your Social Security card, and also the Social Security cards of all family members. You are also required to bring your birth certificate and the birth certificate of all family members, along with any income you may be receiving. Once this information is brought in, the manager, assistant manager, and or the leasing agent will make copies of these documents to put with your Section 8 application. This is an example of the application that we use here at Richland Hills. This application is a combination of 28 pages, which consists of all of your family's information as far as their name, date of birth, their Social Security number, and also whatever income you may be receiving, along with their citizenship. Once you have completed that application, make sure you have all the required documents that the manager or leasing agent or assistant manager have asked you to bring in. If any piece of those informations are missing, your application will not be accepted on that particular day. Once you have turned in all of the required documents, then your application will be processed. And that is a combination of your background check, your credit report, and running a sex offender registry on you as required by the government. If you have any felonies on your background, each property has different criteria. Our property here at Richland Hills Apartments, your felony has to be 10 years or older. Any drug charges on your background will determine an automatic rejection. Bankruptcy is looked at and taken into consideration. However, it will not stop you from being approved for based on income housing. Once we have received your application and ran your background, you're placed on a waiting list that looks similar to this. Each property is required to have one by HUD or Housing Urban Development. Every applicant that turns in an application is placed on this waiting list, whether they are rejected and or approved. Here at Richland Hills, we have a combination of 1 bedrooms, 2 bedrooms, and 3 bedroom apartments. For example, if we have multiple clients that come in on the same day, which was the case and many of the times is the case when we are accepting applications. Here's an example of July 11th, 2012. And if you need to come a little closer, that's fine. On the 11th of July, we had multiple people to come in on that same day. What we are required to do is to write down that date, and if the date falls on the same day, then we're required to put the time that we received the application. And what that means is when you turned the application in and it was verified that you signed every document and dated it, that is the time that we put that you have completed the application. So in this situation, On July the 11th, 2012, we received one at 10:17 a.m. Then the next person turned theirs in at 10:20 a.m. and then the next person at 10:05 p.m. and so on and so forth. The next column here is the applicant's name. The next column is the phone number, and we ask every applicant, should they change phone numbers, make sure that you call the office to update us on your new phone number, so when we get to your name, we will be able to contact you. This row here is a combination of income levels. EL stands for extremely low income, VL is very low income, and L is low income. The next section is broken down if the applicant needs any handicap accessibility. In this case, we did not have anyone that needed income accessibility. In the comments section, we are required by HUD to write down every time that we call the applicant to make an attempt to reach them. And actually, we moved our column over one step, and we write down the date and the time that we tried to contact the applicant. After 3 attempts, we can skip that applicant and go to the next person that is listed. Move-in date and time. Once the resident is moving in, we are required to put the time and the date, and also the apartment number that they have moved into. Once a year, Based on Income Properties has a management review. And what that means is the government comes in to check our files to make sure we have accumulated all of the proper documents that was needed for housing and that we followed all the steps that are set forth by HUD. Once the applicant has come in to move in, we calculate and determine what their rent is going to be. That is calculated by the gross income. Every year, we take and add up all of the income the applicant has received or project that they will receive at the end of the year. And once we get to that total at the end of the year of their annual income, that total is divided by 12, and that number that is left over is multiplied by 30%. That 30% is what the applicant is required to pay for their rent. Now, the other side to that is each applicant receives a $480 deduction per child. That deduction comes off of the gross annual income. The remainder of that income is divided by 12, and that number is multiplied by 30%, and that is what the applicant is required to pay. Every year, the applicant is required to be recertified in the same month in which they moved in. A letter goes out 120 days in advance to make them aware that it is time to be recertified. The resident at that time is required to bring in any new income information and or any new family members, or let us know if anyone in the household has passed. The applicant is recertified and the new year begins with their updated rent. So, in conclusion, this is how you will apply for Section 8 housing and to receive any based on income properties in your area.